And I keep seeing all kinds of stuff where it's all these school kids getting screwed over because they didn't want to get vaccinated. This one's Reason, Free Minds and a Free Market. There's a little magazine place. They do a bunch of opinion pieces, but this is just a journalist piece explaining something that actually happened. Not like the Washington Post guy just spouting off a bunch of absurd shit. Now this LA school called the cops on unvaccinated teens who showed up for class. The students gave negative COVID tests, weren't good enough for school administrators. I was reading this. They had multiple different checkpoints that they had to go through in the school, which I thought was kind of insane. Now, when they showed up at school around 7:30 a.m., they sailed through the first checkpoint run by two newly hired security guards who were satisfied with the girls' proof of negative tests conducted in the last 24 hours, which is already kind of overboard, but, whatever. They shouldn't have to submit things like that. We shouldn't be doing things like this to our kids and subjecting them to all this ludicrous nonsense. But it goes on. It was at the second checkpoint run by the school administrators demanding proof of vaccination that created trouble for the teens. Several hours later, and I say several hours later, after tense negotiations between the administrators, teens, and their parents, the school called Los Angeles Police Department to the scene and cordoned the teens off, denying them chairs and bathroom breaks, according to the girls. Now, this is surely fucked up. There's no reason to put a bunch of kids through this. Her explanation is she's unvaccinated for several reasons. Given her Jewish faith, she has reservations about putting foreign substances in her body, like vaccines or birth control, even though she's received all childhood vaccines required to enter school that actually have a very, very, very low rate of any harm or adverse reactions. It's been a tried and proven thing, even though some people say that the amount of injections that most kids have in a period of time is a little bit too much and they should be broadened. That's regardless of the point. This is a vaccine that hasn't gone through full clinical studies and trials. Like we're literally in the middle of the clinical trial for this vaccine, and if everyone is forcing it, and I feel like this is part of the way that they just make divide. We're always fighting over something or another. It always has to be something, and now it's the vaccinated over the unvaccinated, and for the longest time it was racism or who's the terrorist. Well, now our Merrick Garland of the FBI has labeled patriots as domestic terrorists. So now we get to be terrorists and we get to be the bad people. Just because we don't want to do exactly everything that the government tells us to do. Shut up and take your shot. No, I don't think so. And I can say that. I got the vaccine. I'm not against all vaccines. I was very deeply troubled after the fact. Well, let me back up a little bit and actually talk about it. The company that I work for issued a mask policy, and we were told that if we got the vaccine that we would no longer need our masks. And, well, it was obnoxious enough after about 6 months of enduring 10-hour physical work days with a mask on my face. So yeah, I considered it, and I ended up getting the 2-round Moderna shot, and I didn't have anything, nothing happened to me. I didn't feel weird or anything. I thought it was normal. I overheard that there is some fishy things going on with the policy surrounding it and how it was emergency use, and I was a little concerned. I wasn't that worried. I felt fine, but I wanted to look into it a little bit, and it wasn't until after the 2 or 3 months after I got the shot that I decided to start looking into it, and I found out that it was still in the experimental stages and that it wasn't fully approved by the FDA, and the FDA only post-date approved it due to the emergency use authorization. And that I mean, like, I wasn't scared or anything like that, but I was pretty concerned. You know, like, why are we forcing this on people? I don't understand what the need is to absolutely force people to do this. We've never done anything like this before. I think it's absurd. And I think this might be something I don't huge coincidence that the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette is reporting on. Monster sound. 10 injured when bridge in Pittsburgh Frick Park collapses. We have here in Maine, where I'm at, we have so many infrastructure problems because we have per capita, we have more road span than we have for the number of people that pay taxes in the state, and our road network is very, very extensive. We actually don't have the even though we pay a lot of property, a lot of taxes towards the roads, it's mostly to maintain the touristy areas and basically the highways and interstates. They don't really care about many of the other more rural areas, but there's a town close to me, Brunswick, into Topsom, a little ways away from Portland, but it's in the general area on the coast. We salt our roads to high hell and back all winter long, and when we have these steel I-beamed bridges built in the 50s and 60s that are not maintained, every year someone should be inspecting it, and when they fail inspection, someone needs to maintain what we have. You know, if you want to keep something good, you have to take care of it. If you let it go, you're not going to have it anymore. Well, our bridge in Brunswick got so bad that the past recent inspection for the past year, they realized that they need to put a weight limit and alter traffic and not allow big rigs and heavy box trucks to go over the bridge because they were really scared it was going to collapse. All the salt over time and not repainting and stripping and repainting the bridge and let the salt and sodium chloride that we use just eat away at the bridge and turn into Swiss cheese underneath, and people are still driving over it every day. And my sister-in-law's scared to death, and she drives across it every day, and she's nervous about it, and she saw this and sent it to me. Now she's all paranoid. But this story was uploaded at 5 p.m. on Friday, January 28th, which is still today, hours before President Biden was to visit Pittsburgh on Friday to tout his infrastructure plan. A bridge with a troubled inspection history collapsed, injuring 10 people and stranding 7 vehicles, including Port Authority bus. On the weekend, the wreck structure that spans the ravine over Frick Park, 3 people were rushed to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries, and a 4th person, one of 2 passengers on the bus, was taken to a hospital about 2 hours later. Local officials said, "We were fortunate," Pittsburgh Mayor Ed Gainey said, "that no one was killed." The collapse of the 52-year-old steel rigid-frame bridge took place over the city, prepared for a visit from Mr. Biden, who took a detour to visit the disaster scene before moving on to a scheduled visit in Hazelwood to push his $1 trillion plan to overhaul the nation's infrastructure, including bridges. And I'm going to pause right there. I'm going to be looking into this bill when I actually find out a little bit more about it. And some of the other things, like I don't have all the information. I haven't put it all together yet, but I have a lot of pork, basically, because most of these things that they are trying to pass, it has to be public knowledge eventually. And for the longest time, I think it was like the first couple months that they were super hardcore pushing it with Nancy Pelosi, really, really trying to get a vote on it before Manchin and Sinema decided that they wanted to know more about it before they voted on something that they didn't even know what was in it. Good on them. They found out that hardly any of it had anything to do with infrastructure or anything, and they called bullshit and said no, I'm not doing this, not at all. So I feel like if you want to look into it, find out about it, read about it, share about it, let me know, comment, and we'll try to figure it out, and I'll compile some more stuff. I want to do like a whole thing about the basic lies of the government, and it's kind of crazy how they kind of sit in a room, and they most of these representatives have people that like teams of people that take these 3,000 page documents. They write this in such a way that it's impossible for one person to read within the determined amount of time to be able to vote on it. So they have teams of people that split and delegate portions of these bills, and they cram all the information that they can in a very short amount of time, and they basically write simplified memos to give to the representatives or the Senate or whoever is voting on the bill, so that they know what they're voting for. And they have to basically trust their employees, and they're not all the same person. They're obviously going to have differences in political opinion or anything. So while they're scanning through and abbreviating and oversimplifying things to kind of dumb it down so someone can make a rash, quick, but also informed decision on something, yeah, some things can get lost in translation, and things could be overlooked. So I feel like that's one thing that we should probably push for in our Congress and in our politics, to simplify in the beginning, because if it's physically, humanly impossible for someone to read a certain like 6-inch stack of paper in a bill, then maybe it shouldn't be written out that way. Maybe it should be subdivided into different bills that could be voted on separately. That way everyone knows exactly what they're voting for. But I digress. Vehicles were caught in the wreckage, falling with the bridge, and an articulated Port Authority bus trapped in the slab and remnants of the span. In a whirlwind rescue, Fire Chief Daryl Jones said crews rappelled 100 to 150 feet down the steep still hillside in order to help to pluck the injured people out of the rubble, later earning praise from the president. These guys deserve an incredible amount of credit for going down there, Biden said while visiting the scene. Search and rescue crews are now focused on combing through the debris for possible victims underneath the rubble, in an image that has now been flashed on social media around the world. One resident who lives near the park was startled in bed. There was a boom, then a monster sound, I said Melissa Beck, who said she heard the 4-lane bridge collapse, followed by the rushing sound of a gas line that broke. It was so loud and it didn't stop. In a statement, Port Authority said that the bus became trapped, and the 61B Braddock Swissvale was headed southbound on the bridge around 6:45 a.m. and had nearly reached the east end of the bridge when it collapsed. A Port Authority spokesman said that the bus slid backwards at about 45-degree angle, but it stopped when it got hit in the rear and part of the rubble. Emergency crews were then able to pull out the driver and the 2 passengers. Now, yeah, this is a sad thing that happened. I don't even know what state this is in. Maybe we'll be able to zoom out and look at it. Is that Pennsylvania? Yeah, Pennsylvania. Right outside of Pittsburgh. Man, that's crazy. I really hope that that does not happen to any of the main bridges around here. And they also have some of the inspection history on the end of the article. The inspection history. The collapse came in the wake of a troubling inspection dating to 2011 that show the aging span has been rated in poor condition according to the National Bridge Inventory. 2011. they've known about it for that long, and have. What did they do about it? Let's see if they did anything about it. Records for the inventory show that the bridge was consistently found to be in poor shape during the inspections from 2011 to 2017, with estimated repairs at $1.5 million. I know that sounds like a lot of money, but if I'm thinking about figures, did we pull in $6 million in just gas taxes the other year in Maine? I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. Mr. Gainey said that the bridge was last inspected in September 2021. A statewide report from last year noted that the bridge was still in poor condition. Well, if you're not maintaining it, it's obviously going to still be in poor condition. The bridge, owned by the city of Pittsburgh, was a 497-foot bridge with a 3-span steel rigid frame and carried some 14,000 vehicles a day. It was built in the early 1970s, a Newcastle-based construction company. It was replaced the previous bridge that had been in service since 1901. Wow, that's crazy. But just like here in Maine, they salt their roads too. They're part of the Northeast, and they're far above the salt band. The roads get pretty nasty, and if you're not maintaining your bridges, all the road salt and everything's just, where does it go? We got gravity. It goes down. It's not going to fly up and out and everywhere else and be in the atmosphere. It'd be one thing committing to global warming so that they complain about something else. No, it's going to go down onto the steel girders that support it, and it's just going to rot everything. It goes on to say, one local resident, a software engineer, said he sent an alert to the city 3 years ago when he was walking his dog at the bridge and noticed a rusted and detached support. He said he reported a rusted and detached support. Wow. He snapped a few photos and posted one to his Twitter account, adding to the city's 311 non-emergency handle writing, I hope someone is keeping an eye out for the underside of the Forbes Avenue Bridge over Frick Park. One of the big X-beams is rusted entirely through, and yes, I see the cable, so it's probably not crisis. Who? Let's see if I can blow this picture up. Oh, it's on Twitter. All right. Yeah, that is pretty scary. That's supporting 14,000 cars a day. Holy cow. If you don't see video, yeah, they have a picture and it is completely rotten. It looks like the frame of my 20-year-old truck. It does not look good at all. The city actually responded 3 days later that it had received the message and created a ticket to track his concern about that was later closed, but what's not clear is whether or not any significant repairs were made. Obviously not, if the fucking thing collapsed. Holy crap. The detached beam was later removed, and after that, kind of figured it was taken care of and gradually forgot about it. His tweet, which had just a couple of views and likes before Friday, had over 3,000 within several hours of the collapse. His tweeted photo was now being linked to news stories across the country. The state records show that Allegheny County was the highest number of bridges in the state in poor condition, 176 in all, as well as the highest number of bridges overall. In the county, 8% of the 1,100 state bridges are listed in poor condition. Another 20% of the 400 local bridges show poor rating. The National Transportation Safety Board announced late Friday morning that it is sending a GO team to the scene. The team, headed by NTSB chairwoman Jennifer Hominy, was expected to arrive Friday afternoon along with the president and his entourage, just to make an appearance and just look at things and say sorry. I hope you guys are fine. Okay, bye. And this is going over the president's visit. I don't know if you came over there and shoot a shot out of pressure, and then okay, bye.